Hello, family. I'm coming to you today on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. What I intend to do today for you is to talk about a couple of work experiences that I had that contributed to my breakdowns in 2009 and 2015-16, and throw in some Martin Luther King Jr. quotes that I found are relative to the situations that I'd been through. So I mentioned in yesterday's video that I've suffered two major breakdowns in the last 10 years. The first one was in 2019, and I worked for a very large pharmacy benefit manager, and I was working as an account manager, and my job there was to consult with our clients and work through their day-to-day needs, provide them with reporting, provide them with consultation on their plans, changes and benefits, and that sort of thing. And I had moved from an internal operational role to an external client-facing account manager role. And when I did that, when I made that move, I ended up working with an individual that I had interviewed years and years prior for the job that I had at that point in time, which was an account manager, and she chose not to hire me. She didn't think I was a good fit. So she made it her personal mission to discredit me and to prove that she was correct in not hiring me for that job. So my life was horrible working with her. She actually was very, very well known for treating people poorly. I'm not the only one that suffered at her hand. And she found frequent and painful ways to make you question yourself, your abilities, your existence, for lack of a better term. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples. So we traveled to a client that's not very far from us, but we both flew there separately. We flew in the night before, and then we had our meeting during the day, and then we flew back that next afternoon. So we were at the client meeting, and she dictated, even to the client, which is just so ballsy, where we were all going to sit in the conference room. So I was like, well, who in the world does that? But she did, and she put me right next to her. And then she asked me to take notes. Now, mind you that this meeting was a meeting to introduce me to the client as their account manager, which I would be their primary contact for everything that was day-to-day. And then she is the contact for the big ticket items like drug rebates or anything contractual. But I would provide them with reports and day-to-day support and some consultation. She did it really high level, and I did it more at the granular level, where I would take the information in and then translate it so that our internal teams knew what to do and the timing that was needed around it. So she's sitting there, asked me to take notes, which I don't have a problem with. Somebody's got to. So I'm taking notes, and all of a sudden she stops the meeting, the whole meeting, in front of everybody, and she looks at my notes and she says, "How in the world are you taking notes? I can't even read that." And it was like, made me feel like an idiot in front of the client. But my response to her was, "Patricia, I'm writing in shorthand. I'll translate the notes and get them out written for everybody, but in the interest of time, I'm using shorthand, which I learned in high school." So I just immediately was discredited in front of the client. It was terrible. But not as terrible as what was to come. So we leave the client, and she's driving, and she asked me questions like I've never been out of my house before. She said, "Do you know what terminal you're going to?" And I said, "No." And she's like, "Well, how in the world am I supposed to know where to drop you off?" And I'm like, "Well, if you drop me off wherever you're dropping off and I need to be somewhere else, there's a shuttle system. I can just take the shuttle to the terminal. Not a big deal." And she's like, "That's just incredibly inconvenient." And in the back of my head, I'm thinking, actually, it's not inconvenient. I'm actually telling you to drop me off wherever you're going, and then I'll take care of my own business. But But that was just the start. So then we parked the car at the rental return, and she asked me like 2 or 3 times, do you have your phone charger? Do you have your things? Are they all together? And I'm like, yep. And I think because I didn't like look around and make sure that everything I had was in order, she parked the car, popped the trunk, and then came around to my side of the car after I got out and literally like shoved me out of the way and started looking all over the inside of the car where I was sitting. And then she said, oh, yep, you got everything. And I felt like saying, yeah, I mean, even if I forgot something, that's on me. It's not on you. Whatever. So then we get into the airport, and she's irritated because I didn't print my boarding pass. And I'm like, I don't need to print my boarding pass. I can get an electronic, code on my phone, like whatever. But she was irritated that I didn't do that and made sure I knew it. And then she starts looking at what I was wearing, and she's like, you really should change your shoes. Those aren't comfortable to walk through an airport. And I looked at her, and I just said, I can handle it. And in the back of my head, I was thinking, I'm 35 freaking years old. I know how to handle myself. If I'm uncomfortable because I wore the wrong shoes, that's my fault. Like, stop treating me like I'm a 2-year-old. It was so terrible. And I wish that was the worst. When we got back to our office, she kept tabs on when I would sign in and when I would sign out of my instant messenger. She took notes on when my instant messenger would go inactive, and she reported every little move to my boss because I worked remote. And she didn't believe in working remote. She believed that everybody should work in an office so that you can be focused on your job. And I was literally the only person in my market group that worked in Wisconsin. So there was no reason for me to be in the office. Anyway, she was terrible. And there were so many times that she reported my absence or my going incognito on my instant message, and she reported all those to my boss, and my boss would know where I was. So this one time in particular, she noticed that I'd signed out early. And I'd signed out early, but before I signed out, I called my boss. And I called my boss and I said, hey, my dad just called me hysterical. His younger sister was found dead today, and he is in a really bad place. So I'm going to log out for the day and tend to family needs. And my boss was like, dude, go for it. Take care of your family. I understand. My condolences. He was super nice. And she noticed that I was not available on my instant messenger. So she called me, and she called me several times. And I saw that it was her, but I thought, my boss knows where I am. No big deal. I'll let it go to voicemail, and I'll deal with it when I get back to work. And then a little while later, our market group director, so her and my boss's boss, starts calling me. And like the second time he called me, I picked up my phone, and he's like, Christine, why aren't you working? Patricia is going crazy. And I said, I had a death in the family today, and Mitch knows that I'm dealing with family situation, and it's like an hour before the end of the day. So I didn't, take off early and tell nobody where I was going. My boss okayed it, and it's just an hour. And when I got back, my boss said, Christine, we really can't have that happen again. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, I'm sorry that my aunt died in an inconvenient time and that my dad needed me. I don't know what in the world. So the problem that I really have with that is that my boss and the people that I was close to at work knew and sat back and watched this woman tear me down. And nobody said anything, and nobody stood up for me. And it ultimately ended up being part of the reason that I suffered a breakdown. So, Martin Luther King Jr. Day today, one of my favorite quotes by him is injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. There was so many people that had numerous opportunities to stand up for me, or to tell her to stuff it, or to tell her to leave me alone, to stop harassing me. I did go to HR. They did nothing. Because why? Because she was a good producer. She sold a lot. But that doesn't mean that she has, full access to tear somebody down like she's some kind of drill instructor and we're at war. So that was the first situation. The second one happened in 2015 and 2016. So again was a breakdown that I suffered, and it again was a situation where I had multiple things going on, and work was a big factor in my breakdown. So this time I had a boss who did not understand the change that I was driving for. She didn't understand it. She didn't support it when I brought it to her. And I knew it was vital, and I knew it was so, so important. So I took it to her boss. And her boss said, Christine, get on this. Like, I'm taking you out of your account manager role, and I'm giving you the authority to run with this and fix what needs to be fixed, because it impacted us, our company, and it impacted our clients in major, major ways. But my boss was mad that I went over her head, and I did that only because she blew me off when I tried to explain it to her. She didn't understand it, so I was a threat to her. So what she did, again, was kind of the same thing Patricia did, and she worked very, very hard to discredit me. I got written up for ridiculous things, but she was super smart about it. She wrote me up for things that were all at manager discretion, which meant I didn't have a leg to stand on. If she felt it was wrong, it was wrong. So I'm going to kind of go through them quickly. The first one was I got written up for being offensive to a coworker. And what happened was I was on the phone with our training department, and I made a general statement that somebody took offense to. And that statement was, if we expect our account managers to go out to our clients and collect the information that we need to process a claim on their behalf, we first have to make sure that our account managers understand how insurance works. It really is a no-brainer. But somebody knew how insurance worked and took offense to that, so I got written up for it. And during that write-up, I took the time to say, Pam, as my boss, I would expect that if you have two people that understand an initiative that your boss says is critical to our business, if you have two people that understand that, now you have twice as much intelligence out there. Put us together on a team and have us work out a training program that will help the entire department. But that's not what she did. She wrote me up for being offensive to that coworker. And during that write-up, I said to her, I don't understand how I could be offensive to my coworkers. I have great relationships with all of them. And she said, Christine, let me be real with you. Nobody likes you. If anybody in this department tells you that they like you, or that they even give you any kind of inclination that they care about you, they're lying to your face. HR was there, said nothing. And I was absolutely crushed. So this was just before about a month before my 40th birthday. My husband was planning a party, and I came home and told him, babe, cancel the party. And I sat back and I questioned every single relationship that I had. I wondered, does this person really like me? Or is Pam right and people just pretend to like me because it's easier than telling me what they really feel? It was crushing. It still impacts me today, and this was 4 years ago. The next write-up that I had, I was written up for being disruptive during a meeting, and I was told that the reason I was disruptive is that I don't know the appropriate time to ask questions. And the background to that is we were called into a meeting, all the account managers, and we were advised that we were taking major steps in making adjustments to a survey that impacted our clients' performance reviews, which as an account manager I was responsible for. And if my client had low performance views of me, then my bonus potential was pretty much eradicated. So it was personal, it was regarding my pay. So I asked the question, has somebody reviewed the new set of questions to make sure that the questions that apply to our performance guarantees in our contract are there so that we don't end up backing ourselves into a corner? And my boss's boss said, Pam, did anybody do that? And she said, I'll look into it. So she didn't know the answer. So then the next day I got written up for being disruptive during a meeting because I didn't ask the appropriate questions at the appropriate time. It was incredibly important. It was getting deployed the next week. And it impacted not just my income, but the other, 18 account managers that were there. So just a jerk. So the last time I got written up for abuse of company email. God, this one cracks me up. So my husband is generally pretty lucky on winning things on the radio. So he had won tickets to the Wisconsin State Fair. There was a family 4-pack. And something had happened. I think one of the kids was sick or something. And we weren't going to be able to go. And it was the last weekend of the fair. So I sent out an email to our little office, so just the corporate office. And it said, hey, I have 4 tickets to the state fair that we're not going to use. And I don't want them to go to waste. So I'm going to make this a little competition. Our kind of internal company motto was work hard, play hard. So I quoted that in there. And I said, whoever can tell me the best clean joke by lunch will win the tickets. And I put in there, please don't respond to all. Just send it to me. I'll print the responses. I'll read them on my lunch. And then at the end of the day, I'll let you know who was the winner and what their joke was. So just give a little levity, kind of boost a little bit of morale because we all worked super, super hard. And I got written up for abuse of company email. What the heck? That put me on an indefinite last chance, meaning I could come in with the wrong shade of blue pants and get fired immediately. So she put a black mark on my ability to do or to go anywhere within the company. Just a terrible, terrible person. So the quote from Martin Luther King Jr. that resonates here for me is, the time is always right to do the right thing. Such a great quote. My work personality has always been what's referred to as a proactive personality. I learn best by understanding what I'm doing and what's happening in the background. So through that, I guess an example is I'm not going to be somebody who's able to just push a button all day long. I'm always going to be, what's going on beneath there? What am I really doing and what am I impacting? So that's how I learn my job. And when you think like that, you innately identify opportunities for improvement. And when I see something that needs to be fixed, I can't just sit there and let it be wrong. So I show the initiative to offer suggestions. So I don't ever take a problem to my boss and say, boss, this is a problem, and dump it in their lap. I'll say, okay, I identified this problem and I have a couple of potential solutions. Let's talk through them and see what we can do to make it better for not just me, but for anybody that comes after me. So I always take action. And then I persevere until that meaningful change occurs. So in the world of psychology, that's called having a proactive personality. And that is the reason why I'm not working a corporate job right now. I am pursuing my degree, which I wasn't able to obtain in my youth. And I'm going for a business management degree right now. And then after that, I'm going to pursue a graduate degree in industrial and occupational psychology, so that my personality, my proactive personality, can be put to work through consulting in a manner in which organizations are going to appreciate. So that's a little bit about my breakdowns and some things that led to me. It discusses something that we don't talk about enough, which is workplace bullying. And it also pays a little homage to a great man who we lost under ridiculous and tragic circumstances. Sometimes I sit back and I think, if Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream really had come true, because we're still fighting for it, if we're honest, what would the world look like today? And I can't imagine it being anything but exponentially better than it is. I look forward to seeing you again. I appreciate you listening to my long-winded rant today. Please like my post. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the little bell notification so that you're notified when my posts come out. And comment. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know if there's topics that you want me to discuss related to mental health, to breakdowns in general, to supporting your loved ones that might be struggling. I'm open to talk about any kind of content like that. I'm an open book. I want to share what I've been through in hopes that it helps somebody, and maybe down the road it can help us just be better to each other. Sign off. Thanks, everybody.